The Rules of the Game by Amy Tan, excerpted from the Joy Luck Club. While we're reading the rules of the game, please make sure you're paying attention to the active reading questions.
Stop the video, please, and make sure you're familiar with the following key vocabulary of Part 2. Have a look at the translations too.
My older brother Vincent was the one who actually got the chess set. We had gone to the annual Christmas party held at the First Chinese Baptist Church at the end of the alley. The missionary ladies had put together a Santa bag of gifts donated by members of another church. None of the gifts had names on them. There were separate sacks for girls. Let's try that again. There were separate sacks for boys and girls of different ages. One of the Chinese parishioners had donned a Santa Claus costume and a stiff paper beard with cotton balls glued to it. I think the only children who thought he was the real thing were too young to know that Santa Claus was not Chinese. When my turn came up, the Santa man asked me how old I was. I thought it was a trick question. I was 7 according to the American formula and 8 by the Chinese calendar. I said I was born on March 17, 1951. That seemed to satisfy him. He then solemnly asked if I had been a very, very good girl this year, and did I believe in Jesus Christ and obey my parents. I knew the only answer to that. I nodded back with equal solemnity. Having watched the older children opening their gifts, I already knew that the big gifts were not necessarily the nicest ones. One girl my age got a large coloring book of biblical characters, while a less greedy girl, who selected a smaller box, received a glass vial of lavender toilet water. The sound of the box was also important. A 10-year-old boy had chosen a box that jangled when he shook it. It was a tin globe of the world with a slit for inserting money. He must have thought it was full of dimes and nickels, because when he saw that it had just 10 pennies, his face fell with such undisguised disappointment that his mother slapped the side of his head and let him out of the church hall, apologizing to the crowd for her son, who had such bad manners he couldn't appreciate such a fine gift.
Stop to answer the following questions, please. Who got the chess set? What do we learn about Chinese culture from this incident? Incidentally, if you haven't done so, please go back to this article and read about the differences between American and Chinese culture. Reading this article will help you understand a lot about this story. Go ahead and look for it. It's very easy to find.
As I peered into the sack, I quickly fingered the remaining presents, testing their weight, imagining what they contained. I chose a heavy, compact one that was wrapped in shiny silver foil and a red satin ribbon. It was a 12-pack of Lifesavers, and I spent the rest of the party arranging and rearranging the candy tubes in the order of my favorites. My brother Winston chose wisely as well. His present turned out to be a box of intricate plastic parts. The instructions on the box proclaimed that when they were properly assembled, he would have an authentic miniature replica of a World War II submarine. Vincent got the chess set, which would have been a very decent present to get at a church Christmas party, except it was obviously used, and, as we discovered later, it was missing a black pawn and a white knight. My mother graciously thanked the unknown benefactor, saying, "Too good, cost too much." At which point, an old lady with fine, white, wispy hair nodded toward our family and said with a whistling whisper, "Merry, Merry Christmas."
Which gift did Waverly get at the Christmas party? What was wrong with the chess set? Incidentally, as the story unfolds, you will notice that chess has an important role in this story. When you finish Part 2, why don't you watch this video and then find out what you get out of playing chess and what chess can teach you about life. That is relevant to this story indeed. This is the video on YouTube. You can just find it on the internet.
Let's pause now to answer the next reading question. After reading to this point, this is the top of page 3, how would you describe the narrator's character? You are then asked to highlight 2 to 3 passages in the text that led you to this description. You may pause the recording while you make this answer. I'll continue with the story now. When we got home, my mother told Vincent to throw the chess set away. She not want it, we not want it, she said, tossing her head stiffly to the side with a tight, proud smile. My brothers had deaf ears. They were already lining up the chess pieces and reading from the dog-eared instruction book. I watched Vincent and Winston playing during Christmas week. The chessboard seemed to hold elaborate secrets waiting to be untangled. The chessmen were more powerful than old Lee's magic herbs that cured ancestral curses, and my brothers wore such serious faces that I was sure something was at stake that was greater than avoiding the tradesman's door to Hong Sing's. Let me, I begged between games, when one brother or the other would sit back with a deep sigh of relief and victory, the other annoyed, unable to let go of the outcome. Vincent at first refused to let me play, but when I offered my lifesavers as replacements for the buttons that filled in for the missing pieces, he relented. He chose the flavors: wild cherry for the black pawn and peppermint for the white knight. Winner could eat both. As our mother sprinkled flour and rolled out small doughy circles for the steamed dumplings that would be our dinner that night, Vincent explained the rules, pointing to each piece. You have 16 pieces and so do I. 1 king and queen, 2 bishops, 2 knights, 2 castles, and 8 pawns. The pawns can only move forward 1 step, except on the first move. Then they can move 2. But they can only take men by moving crossways, like this, except in the beginning when you can move ahead and take another pawn. Why? I asked as I moved my pawn. Why can't they move more steps? Because they're pawns, he said. But why do they go crossways to take other men? Why aren't there any women and children? Why is the sky blue? Why must you always ask stupid questions? Asked Vincent. This is a game. These are the rules. I didn't make them up. See? Here in the book. He jabbed a page with a pawn in his hand. Pawn. P-A-W-N. Pawn. Read it yourself. My mother patted the flour off her hands. Let me see book, she said quietly. She scanned the pages quickly, not reading the foreign English symbols, seeming to search deliberately for nothing in particular. This American rules, she concluded at last. Every time people come out from foreign country must know rules. You not know, judge say, too bad, go back. They not telling you why, so you can use their way go forward. They say, don't know why, you find out yourself, but they knowing all the time. Better you take it, find out why yourself. She tossed her head back with a satisfied smile. I found out about all the whys later. I read the rules and looked up all the big words in a dictionary. I borrowed books from the Chinatown library. I studied each chess piece, trying to absorb the power each contained. Let's pause again to answer an active reading question. This is at the top of page 4. What does the previous paragraph tell you about Waverly as a character? You may pause the recording to record your response. I'll now continue the story. I learned about opening moves and why it's important to control the center early on. The shortest distance between 2 points is straight down the middle. I learned about the middle game and why tactics between 2 adversaries are like clashing ideas. The one who plays better has the clearest path for both attacking and getting out of traps. I learned why it is essential in the endgame to have foresight, a mathematical understanding of all possible moves, and patience. All weaknesses and advantages become evident to a strong adversary and are obscured to a tiring opponent. I discovered that for the whole game, one must gather invisible strengths and see the end game before the game begins. I also found out why I should never reveal why to others. A little knowledge withheld is a great advantage one should store for future use. That is the power of chess. It is a game of secrets in which one must show and never tell. I loved the secrets I found within the 64 black and white squares. I carefully drew a handmade chessboard and pinned it to the wall next to my bed, where I would stare for hours at imaginary battles. Soon I no longer lost any games or lifesavers, but I lost my adversaries. Winston and Vincent decided that they were more interested in roaming the streets after school in their Hopalong Cassidy cowboy hats.
This is the end of part 2. Please turn to the other activities that you are asked to do. Thank you.